The following podcast is part of the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. For advertising information or to find more great podcasts, visit us at www.theunderdogsports.com and follow us on Twitter at RealTheUnderdog.
Okay. Well, just for the record, we got the Sunny in Phoenix too. 52.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sunny in Phoenix podcast, a weekly podcast where we keep you up to date on everything Phoenix Suns basketball. My name is Charlie Erling, and as always, I'm joined by Mitch Krmpotich.
I don't know about you, but I feel good.
I don't know about you, but I feel good.
All right, this week on the show, we'll be talking about our new head coach, Frank Vogel, and the staff that he is beginning to fill out. After that, we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming draft and the finals as well.
Shout out to all the listeners. Follow each other on Twitter. You're all talking and responding to us. We didn't have a bet question because there's not anything Suns related to that. I don't know. I guess we could have done who will be the Suns' next head coach, but we didn't. So, yeah, shout out. Follow Josh Kranwetter at Josh Kran on Twitter.
Obviously. And yeah, if we would have done the who's our next head coach, I would have gotten that wrong. 100%.
I would have too. Yep, I would have too.
Shout
out to Josh Rojas, the third baseman of the D-backs, who just hit a RBI single to put us up 8-5 over the Nationals.
Shout out to all Joshes, actually.
Yeah. Josh Kranwetter, Josh Rojas, Josh. That's it.
Jackson.
Just those two. Josh Jackson. No, maybe not. Shout out to him.
True. Okay. All right. Let's hop right into it and talk about our new head coach, Frank Vogel. So I know I was pulling for some young blood to come get the job. I'm very much of the stance of let's quit recycling head coaches and get some new guys in there. But Frank Vogel, the one who wasn't initially mentioned when all the news came out, so it seems like he was a bit of a dark horse, but of course the Suns would say he was our number one target the whole time. But there we go. We ended up with him, and I believe the one thing that all Suns fans can get behind is that we are all happy it's not Doc Rivers as our new head coach.
Yes, that is a relief. I got to say something about this reporting, actually. I think we have to give a huge shout out to Gambo. He was the only one who said anything about Frank Vogel at first. I think Shams picked it up eventually. Woj didn't really say anything about us interviewing Frank Vogel, but Gambo was the guy who was on that first. So I think we got to give credit where it's due. Also, Gambo, I saw Gambo at a D-backs game recently, and I didn't talk to him or anything, but he was really nice, and he took a picture with someone, so that's kind of cool. But, yeah, I thought the reporting on this was really interesting.
Yeah, and Gambo, also just hot overall. He called David Fizdale a few days before it happened, too.
He did, that's right, yeah.
So, but there is some connection there between Vogel and Fizdale in the past, so it kind of made sense, but he did call it, so shout out to him. But I am happy to see Frank Vogel, bringing what he can bring to a team, as well as filling out a pretty excellent coaching staff. But first of all, let's talk about what he brings to the team as a basketball coach. And the first thing that you point at is his defensive prowess in the game and the way the team performs when he's coaching it. I'm impressed by that, and I think that's something that us as Suns fans probably need a renewed taste of. We don't have Mikal Bridges anymore to bail us out playing incredible defense on somebody all the time. It's going to have to come from different sources, and I think he's the guy that can put all those pieces together. And what a big part of that is going to be is if DeAndre Ayton will buy in and become a true rim-protecting center.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I guess I didn't realize this. What I have been hearing is that Kevin Young, who we retained as an assistant, we'll talk about that in a second, I guess he's the offensive mastermind. But Frank Vogel is known for his defense, and especially getting the most out of big men. Kind of interesting, though, because we don't quite know what's going to happen in these next couple weeks. So if Ayton ends up being there still, it's going to be interesting to see how he responds to Frank Vogel's coaching style.
Right, and offensively, if we're looking at Ayton, if we're keeping Chris Paul, what's going to change for DeAndre Ayton on that side of the ball? That might be a thing that continues to be an issue on the team when it comes to chemistry and Ayton's output, I suppose. That could still be a real thing. So I'm interested to see if Kevin Young comes in as the, let's say, offensive coordinator. I wonder if he has something else for Chris and DeAndre, or, who knows who's going to be on the team by the time the season starts. So a lot of different options could happen. That's true.
I'll just read the Vogel quote here. This is from the press conference that was today at time of recording. That's Tuesday, June 6th. I believe it was at 12 p.m. Arizona time, if for anyone that's that into the details. Frank Vogel says, "I've always had elite rim protectors, and you can get the job done without that. But boy, when you got a guy in front of the basket deterring everything that comes to the rim, you just get stronger." I mean, I'm not reading into that too much. Like, he's just stating facts. I don't think this was like some sort of dig or slight at Ayton or anything. But it is interesting that he highlighted that.
It really is. And this is what's kind of been on my mind since we hired Vogel, knowing the rim protector is such a big part of what he wants to do. Would you get rid of DeAndre Ayton just because he hasn't shown himself to be a true rim protector? Or do you still buy in on some potential where this guy's 7 feet tall, he's built like a brick house, he can jump, but he just seems to not be totally locked in, maybe a little lost on the defensive end sometimes? I feel like that's the mold that you can work with. With his size and athleticism, he should be able to protect the rim. And I don't know why he doesn't. I don't know if it's all effort. I don't know if it's just basketball IQ, not knowing when to be in the right place, when to go up straight, or whatever the situation is. But, man, it just feels like Ayton should be the guy that can do it. And the fact that he's already here and his trade value's at an all-time low, it just feels like Vogel should really work with Ayton to make this work. I think it can, personally, but I might be one of the few Ayton homers left.
I would agree with all of that, especially the last part. Yeah. I mean, if you go on Twitter or Reddit for 5 minutes, you would think Ayton was traded already and ran our team into the ground last year.
Yeah, it's all bad. It's all bad.
Yeah. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I really don't know where I stand at this point. Like, do I think Frank Vogel is going to come in and just turn Ayton around entirely? No, probably not. Do I think we could get some nice pieces back for him at some point? Maybe if that's in the middle of the season. Yeah, I think we could. At the same time, I'll keep going with the questions. Do I think he had a bit of a weird year and can be a lot better? Yes, definitely. And I don't know that he needs a full-on change of scenery. A new coach may be it. We've heard all the rumblings that Monty and Ayton didn't always see eye to eye. And, yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I guess I wouldn't mind giving him a chance, but I also wouldn't be heartbroken if he were traded.
Yep, I'm in that boat too. I'm expecting a trade to happen. It's either him or Chris. I have a feeling one of those guys is gone. Not both, I have a feeling, but one.
The Chris Paul stuff is interesting because he's set to make $30 million next year. One way or another, we are not going to pay Chris Paul $30 million next year. I have seen a lot of very interesting ideas thrown out there, like cutting him and seeing if he clears waivers and trying to pick him up.
I saw that too. I know.
I'm like, the delusion is strong in some people, but there could be some potential contract restructuring. There could be we're a win now team, but some other win now team that is willing to give up a couple pieces to, hope they're a Chris Paul away from winning it all. I don't necessarily think that team exists, but you never know who thinks it. So, yeah, something's going to happen. And I would not be shocked if we saw something happen in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're getting close enough to the draft where moves are going to start happening relatively soon. And, it did take us a long time to make this head coach move in the first place.
It did, yeah.
I'm not in any big rush to see anything happen, but, by draft day, who knows what could happen.
All the scuttlebutt was that we were going to announce our head coach before the finals started. And that didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
So,
I want to carry this into talking about our old assistant, our new assistant, and I want to start here with Kevin Young a little bit. And obviously he was one of the finalists to become our next head coach. And it took a while, much longer than everyone expected, which makes me think that this was down to the wire between these guys. Otherwise, why didn't we just hire Vogel right after that interview if it was so good? But anyways, Kevin Young sticks around on the staff. And everyone I've heard talk about Kevin Young, they've said that he's going to be a head coach in the NBA sooner rather than later. And we kind of did him dirty right here, if you think about it. We took so long to hire our head coach. All the other vacancies had been snatched up by then. Kevin Young had nowhere to go. I wonder if that's why he ended up, resigning to sign back with us, even though he did get a fat check out of the deal from what has been reported. So, a guy who has a chance to become a head coach kind of gets burned by the system here and ends up sticking around but making some good money. And then we add David Fizdale, another guy with head coaching experience who's been in a front office for a little bit, who can just bring a bunch of different tools. So more veteran coaches coming in to help. While I wanted a rookie head coach, it makes sense bringing in Vogel and Fizdale to coach a contending team. I can get behind that. So overall, very happy with the coaching staff. Still wondering what we're going to do with the rest of the staff, though. So I wonder if they'll all be coming back too, or if any will be following Monty to Detroit.
Yeah, these are all good points. Another thing that I think it shows is that Matt Ishbia is willing to pay. And we've known this. The Kevin Durant trade is exhibit A of this, of course, but this is just another example. So that is kind of cool. That gives me hope going into this off season, where I expect to see a lot of fireworks. But yeah, these are all great points. Guys with head coaching experience. I sent you that meme that I think I found on Reddit that was of all Bledsoe, Dragic, and Isaiah Thomas all holding the ball at the same time, which that picture is so unfortunate now because it just summed up what went wrong that year. Yep. But but that picture, but with the coaches' faces photoshopped on there. I don't think that's going to be an issue, though. And I'm excited. I think to have all this experience coming in is going to be good. This is kind of what I think about the whole defensive focus thing. Good. Let Booker and Durant run the offense. They are the offensive coaches at this point. you know. And if Chris Paul's there, he's basically an offensive coach too. But we just have to make sure that all those three coaches on the floor are on the same page. But yeah, I mean, I just think the offense is the last thing we have to worry about with this team. So I'm excited about the potential of just letting them do their thing and then really keeping things tight on the defensive end.
Yeah. You know, James Jones said something about the new coaching hire and getting rid of Monty, and he said it seemed like the main thing was that they just wanted a new voice to talk to the players, to, you know, a new influence, a new philosophy, that type of thing. It just that in itself does make a lot of sense, to the fact where I think Monty obviously built something great here for us to start things off. But I just assume that maybe he was a little too soft with the players overall. Maybe he let everything slide but what DeAndre tried to pull. You know? I have a feeling that Chris Paul could probably get away with whatever he wanted to. Not saying he's going to be, you know, goofing off. The opposite of it, getting a little too hard on guys and stuff. I could see Monty just letting that all slide by. That type of thing.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
So you get some older guys in there, not age older, but more experienced guys, and a couple of them. And I don't know, maybe that'll just be better for the team overall. Who knows?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I do think that I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes with a coach that is a little harder on the players. Because you're right, Monty was great for getting our culture better, and he's going to do that same thing in Detroit and make a ton of money doing it. But yeah, I wonder how some of these players are going to respond to a coach who will cuss at them and who will yell at them a litof bit more. And, you know, a coach who isn't Ted Lasso. Great show. Just finished it last night.
Ooh,
but
nice.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested. The other thing I'm thinking about is we know Fizdale has a little history of, you know, he has
fire.
his take that for data thing. Yeah, he can be a little fiery. I wonder where his stance is now with the analytics, because, you know, with all the mid-range shots that we take, I bet he loves that. I mean, the Suns are like the eye test team to the extreme. So he probably was like, yeah, I got to get into Phoenix. We're going to shoot 100 mid-range shots a game. That thought kind of crossed my mind.
I like that. That's good. He can just relish in Booker and KD hitting about 15 to 20 middies every game.
Exactly.
That's good. Oh, man. Well, yeah, that was quite a bit of a change, all in a hurry, to our coaching staff. I'm interested to see how the end of the bench goes. I mean, all the way back to Jarrett Jack back there. I wonder who sticks around, who follows Monty. I'm assuming that's all going to be happening pretty quick, but we will see.
Yep, we will. But you're right. I mean, it's just like the off season, you know. Once it hits, it goes fast. It's a quick change.
That's true. And yeah, I mean, the draft is in just a little bit over 2 weeks. Let's talk about that real quick here. So, the Suns hold pick number 52 quite a ways back. So it's tough for us to sit here and say, oh, we should be looking at this guy, because we have no idea who's going to be on the board by that time. Honestly, though, here's my take. We need to keep this pick or trade up and have some sort of youth that we can start developing on a rookie contract, a cheap rookie contract for a couple years that we have control over. Take the best player available. It doesn't matter what position. Just get somebody in here. So, and that way we'll actually have one guy on our summer league roster who's ready to play in Vegas this year. Just one, but it's okay.
I'm just looking at Tankathon's mock draft right now.
Yeah.
And they are mocking us Ben Shepherd, a 6'6" shooting guard from Belmont. I have never heard of him, but I guess he's a 3-point shooter.
I will say, I think I follow the draft a little bit. He's actually climbed up quite a bit and might even be a first-round pick nowadays. So,
oh wow,
if we got him 52, I'd be dancing because that'd be a great backup for Booker.
Let's just throw some names out around here then.
Yeah,
we've got Keontae Johnson from Kansas State. Kansas State had a good year. Senior, looks like a long guy, pretty decent shooter. Maybe a little bit careless, it looks like. 6'5", but with a 7-foot wingspan. So that's interesting. Small forward. Then Mike Miles Jr. is another name. Point guard from TCU. He's a junior, 6'2". Looks like another decent shooter, but wingspan is wingspan is rough. He is about 6'2", and he has a 6'1.5" wingspan. That's rough.
Ouch.
Maybe not the greatest passer. Okay, so he's around there. That doesn't sound too good. We got Zvonimir Ivisic, Croatian, 19-year-old, 7'2" center, good rebounder, nice 2-point percentage, steals, blocks, offensive rebounding, but he fouls a lot. It looks like I'm just looking at the strengths and weaknesses on Tankathon. So. Yeah, I mean, it looks like there are some options, but mostly guys that no one is paying too much attention to.
No, I will say one more thing, and I don't know if this is much of a issue at number 52, but I have found, just from, following mock drafts and checking out prospects, I have zero fear in drafting an upperclassman in a draft anymore, because I really think that those guys are just that much closer to being able to actually step out on the court and do anything. If you're drafting an 18-year-old kid, what are the odds that he's really going to be able to go compete for 48 minutes out on a court? There's a few that can do it, but if you're drafting anywhere, towards the end of the lottery or end of the first or the second, I would not be scared away by a junior or senior.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. Yeah, I don't mind that either. I mean, we've had some success with that. Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges both were they weren't freshmen. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cameron Johnson was considered an old man.
He was, yeah. So, yeah, I don't mind that either, especially, at 52. And this year, outside of the top 3, you can't be afraid to really take anyone,
Pretty much, yeah. And apparently next year is going to be a worse draft class overall. There's not going to be a Wembanyama by any means, but overall it just sounds like next year might be a rough draft class. So
okay. It'll be the Bronny draft.
Oh boy. I can't wait.
I bet you're pumped about that.
I can't wait for that to, completely dominate the whole draft process cycle.
I feel bad for the MLB. That all of baseball is going to get overshadowed by Bronny being in the draft.
Sure, yeah. Would you like Bronny to just go play baseball? Is that what you're hinting at?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like Mike. Just really stick it to his dad.
Yeah. Just start there. Yeah.
Dad, I want to be like Michael Jordan, and I'm going to play baseball.
I'm going to be like Russell Wilson. I'm going to play baseball. God, I wish Russell Wilson played baseball right now. Yeah, he'll probably be better this year, but he was horrible last year.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, Sean Payton is basically playing quarterback now anyways.
There you go. All right, so yeah, that's about all the draft talk we need to get into. And now we'll just really briefly talk about the finals. And we got a 1-1 series. Next game comes out the day this episode gets released. So that'll be game 3. I am personally surprised that the Heat took one in Denver.
I am too. They looked good. I mean, the Heat have been just such a nice surprise for all of these playoffs. Yeah, they're just so relentless. I still think Denver's going to win it all, but yeah, nice to make it competitive. I watched just about all of game 2, and it was a great game. So very, very back and forth, and yeah, it's just a super weird thing. I saw that the Nuggets haven't won a playoff game where Jokic scores more than 40 points.
Oh yeah, he had that huge game against. Yeah, we won that game.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Very weird.
That is kind of crazy. Like, is it let's just put single coverage on him all game and let him score so he doesn't dish out to everybody for even easier buckets? But didn't the Heat run a ton of zone in this game too?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I wonder if that'll be able to stick around, or if that was just kind of a one-game deal, and then you kind of figure that the Nuggets will have it figured out by game 3. I'm interested to see if they can do that again. Yeah.
I will say I'm loving all of the Jimmy Butler antics in this series and just throughout the playoffs. Like the story how the Heat booked their flight to Denver before game 7. And how what Jimmy Butler wore a shirt that said I can't remember, he wore some shirt that was like saying like that he knew they were going to win or something, and it's like clearly he packed that ahead of time. Like it's just been fun. I'm happy with this series. I'm so glad that it's not Boston. I just like having these quote unquote smaller market teams have this success. So yeah, it's been good.
And Jimmy's a good candidate to do that, because if a lot of other guys tried doing that, they'd get clowned on big time. But Jimmy backs it up. He can afford to put something on the line like that a little bit, because he actually does have confidence in himself, and it's not obnoxious either.
Right.
Some guys can be a little annoying when it comes to that, but it's fun watching Jimmy on and off the court. I agree.
Yeah, and he backs it up with his play. That's the difference, So yeah, I've liked this. I like Jimmy Butler. I like what the Nuggets are doing. Like, yeah, I still don't really think the Heat stand a chance, but I mean, game 2 was really fun.
On the opposite end of Jimmy Butler, though, is Jokic, who just seems like he doesn't really care and he'd rather be watching horse races.
Right.
And it's just as attractive to me. I appreciate it. Like, Jimmy's doing all this to get himself ready and his team ready, and then on the other end, Jokic is, Jokic. He's not getting too riled up about anything, more than likely, and they're both effective methods for their teams. It's a fun clash for sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very. Jokic and Jimmy Butler are like exact opposites.
Yeah. So too bad Jimmy Butler wasn't 7 feet tall though, and they were just going at it in the paint all game.
That would be fun. Yeah, man. But yeah, I don't mind these finals. I am actually watching. I did take my strike from basketball, and I didn't watch any of the conference finals, which I know were like better than the finals is probably going to be, but I was too salty about the Suns' loss, so it's okay.
Can't blame you.
Watching the finals now. Yeah. Last year I didn't watch anything after we lost to the Mavs. I was like, I'm done with basketball. But this year I am more willing to watch. With that, we will move to the non-sports section of our show. And this week we're just going to be talking about music, kind of just in general. What have you been listening to lately?
So I've been doing a bit of a blast from the past lately. We're talking some youth age stuff, middle school era, even before that. I've been listening to a little bit of Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, okay.
Just getting fired up. And then in a similar vein, Beastie Boys.
Oh,
this is what started it. I was recommended a video on YouTube, and it was, you've probably seen something like this. It's a thing on there. People listening to a band for the first time.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
I saw some dude who said he was a huge rap and R&B and hip hop fan, but he had never listened to the Beastie Boys before. And the song was 3 MCs and 1 DJ.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, dude, it was just so refreshing to see that. And I haven't listened to the Beastie Boys in such a long time. And like that, the old school rap, hip hop vibe where more or less their lyrics are talking about how they're better rappers than you is something that I just really like. You know, yeah. I miss that. And I like when I saw, you know, a younger dude watching the Beastie Boys for the first time, I was like, man, that would be cool if that type of rap and hip hop came back a little bit.
Yeah. Do you remember the first Beastie Boys song you ever heard?
Pretty sure it was Intergalactic Planetary. If I had to.
Yeah.
That was the most memorable to me back in the day, but I was always a big fan of Sure Shot. That was one of my other favorite songs.
Uh-huh. Mine was Brass Monkey, and I hated
Brass, dude. Brass Monkey, that funky monkey. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I can see why that would be like an obnoxious song to some extent.
It was. And then I came around because I heard, you know, other like Fight for Your Right and Sabotage and songs like that, and No Sleep Till Brooklyn and all this. So I came around, but yeah, I just remember hearing Brass Monkey. I think it was on the radio, and I was like, what is this? Why are they playing this?
No, I hear that. And yeah, like watching that stuff kind of brought me back to the days of watching MTV and VH1 when like Total Request Live, TRL, was a show with Carson Daly. Like that was a little later than that stuff, but I miss that stuff.
That was peak MTV. I mean, back in the day, that was how I would find music. Right. One of the first bands I was ever like really, really into was Green Day. And I literally found them through the VH1 Top 20 countdown. You know, they'd show the top 20 music videos, and I would watch it. I think it was on Saturdays. I would watch it every Saturday, and it introduced me to a bunch of Green Day songs, and it went from there.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when TRL was either done or MTV had started to change a little bit, and people were like, they don't even show music on MTV anymore.
Right.
Do they even at all anymore? I have no idea.
I actually heard a really interesting thing about this recently. There was a writer's strike. I forget what year it was, but it was around that time when people started saying they don't show music on MTV anymore. And a lot of it was because the writers were on strike. And so that's when reality TV shows started on MTV because it was unscripted. So someone just had some idea, like The Real World, for instance. There was really no premise to that. They were like, let's just put, 10 or 12 people around the same age in a hotel or whatever and see what happens.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the start of that decline.
The days when reality TV actually was unscripted.
Right. So, yeah, it's just, I thought that was a really interesting point, but I've said this on the show before, but I loved Headbangers Ball. That was also that was more of an MTV2 thing in my day, but that was very much a gateway for me as well, was watching Headbangers Ball. It usually would come on late, so it was only on weekends. I think it came on at like 10 o'clock. And so I would have to stay up late to watch Headbangers Ball, and it was a little scary at first, actually, but it's part of the draw, I guess.
Exactly.
Oh, nice. Well, that's cool. That's cool to take that dive into the past. I think a lot of people have been doing this because I think it was No Sleep Till Brooklyn was in the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Oh.
And, I think a lot of these younger people now that may have been their intro to Beastie Boys.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. So nice to see a revival of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
On my end, I mean, I'll try to keep it short. There's always a lot. I went to a show a couple weeks ago and I saw Pliny. I think I've talked about him before. This was my second time seeing him. He's just an amazing guitarist. Really, really great show. And then one of his openers was a band called Sungazer. You would probably like him, actually. Sungazer. It's they're a jazz electronic fusion group, and Adam Neely is the bassist. He is a big YouTube guy, and it's just they've got drums, bass, guitar, and sax, and they're all just like incredible musicians. So they put on a great show. Plenty put on a really great show. It was just like a guitar nerd's dream, and they even like acknowledged that. They're like, you're just all a bunch of guitar nerds. And in the last song, they had all the guitarists from all of the bands come up and solo for like 20 minutes.
Perfect.
And they acknowledged, like, we're also guitar nerds. Like, that's why we're all here. So, yeah, I highly recommend Pliny. His stuff is really interesting. Sungazer, too, on the lighter side. Let's see, heavier side. Sleep Token. I mean, I'm telling everyone about Sleep Token. They're just an insane band that they're completely anonymous. They're a mix of like black metal and R&B. Like, I don't really know how to describe them. Just listen to their song, The Summoning. It's all over the place, but it's like so good. They did like a black metal cover of Hey Ya at one point. So yeah, Sleep Token is wild, but that album, it's called Take Me Back to Eden. It's really, really good. And then on the lighter side of things, I've been listening to another one of my favorite guitarists, Jose Macario. He just came out with an album that is with a vocalist. Her name is Astrid Cruz, and the album is called Distante, and it's very good. Definitely like smoother, like Latin pop, basically. I just really like all of Jose Macario's guitar writing and playing, so I've been listening to that quite a bit too, among other things. But yeah, Macario, Pliny, Sungazer, Sleep Token. Those are some of the groups in the rotation right now.
Sleep Token has me interested, and I don't say that normally about your music plugs a lot of the time because we have very different tastes, but that does sound interesting to me. I will say that it almost sounds a little clowncore vibe to me in a weird way,
not
maybe.
At all. Not clowncore at all.
Then maybe I'm not interested.
Just listen. Their song, The Summoning. Just listen to that. It sums the band up very well. The whole album's great, but The Summoning is like their best song, I would say.
Right on. I will check that out. And we thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Sunny and Phoenix podcast. Check us out on Twitter at Sunny and PHX Pod. Our YouTube is Sunny and PHX Podcast. And be checking back in another week or two for another episode. Thanks for tuning in, and go Suns.